SO to all units. Be advised. Need all available units to respond to the area of northern Madison County for a possible hostage situation. Subject is known to be armed and dangerous. Has displayed violence in the past. Caller is advising that he is armed with multiple weapons and is under the influence of drugs.
10-4, we copy. When we're out.
9 times out of 10, an officer can kind of gauge just by the details that comes over the radio of, wow, this is going to be a hot call, and that day was no exception.
And the call came in of an individual that had been abducted or kidnapped, and the individual ended up coming out of the house, getting in his vehicle, and we initiated a pursuit.
Just the ingredients that were thrown in, the details that came over the radio, we all knew that it was going to be a bad call.
He had the intent, he had the ability to cause trouble, and he was dead set that day that that's what he was going to do.
And at some point, a deputy put out spike strips deflating the vehicle's tires. Anytime a vehicle pursuit ends, there's a few things that you know are going to happen. The suspect's either going to give up, he's going to flee, or he's going to fight. And that day he chose the third.
And before the Jeep ever came to arrest, subject was jumping out of the vehicle with a long rifle. And I keyed up on the radio, he has a long rifle.
He was shooting to kill that day and just started opening up rounds on marked police cars.
I saw the guy firing at my guys, and we exchanged gunfire. We were obviously able to return fire and strike the suspect, and he surrendered at that point. But that's when it became evident that Brad was hurt and seriously hurt.
I knew I was hit, and I knew blood was running down my face. Didn't actually know how serious it was. I knew all I could hear was a loud ringing noise, and it felt like an electrical shock going through my body.
I went over to Brad's car and saw the magnitude of what he was dealing with.
Master Sergeant Butler opened the door, and I looked at him. I said, "Is everybody okay?" He said, "Yeah, everybody's fine." I said, "Well, now save me because I've got kids."
He had 2 rounds go into his left temple and exit out the back of his head.
We all knew it was bad. We knew it was that serious that we needed a helicopter, that we could get him to the hospital as fast as we could.
Remember the helicopter ride, remember landing, remember getting off the helicopter, going into the hospital. Master Sergeant Butler was sitting there then talking to me the entire time. And I remember looking at him and asking him, "Can I go to sleep now?" And he said, "Yes, sir, you can." And next thing I remember, I woke up and it was 30-something days later. They said I'd been in a coma.
In Madison County, a deputy is in the hospital in critical condition tonight after being shot in the head following a hostage situation.
Started into motion a devastating turn of events, allegedly firing shots at multiple deputies, striking several, and shooting Deputy Brad Sullivan in the head. Sullivan is still clinging to life.
It was a major event. It's not often you have that many officers involved in that type of incident, with vehicles being shot up and officers being in harm's way.
It was very emotional for all of the guys. Brad's one of us. He has been, he is, and he's going to continue to be, and put his self out there for us and be that first guy out on the line that day. And he'll tell you, I'm glad it was me, and I'd rather be me than one of the other guys.
There was a tremendous support mechanism in place to help support him at the hospital, support his family. Officers and deputies stayed 24 hours a day at his bedside and were available to do whatever's necessary to keep his life, even though he wasn't there, to keep his life functioning. It was very emotional to be in there, to see him laying in a bed. But then again, it was heart-lifting to know that he was there and that he very easily could not have been there.
The doctors, the surgeons at UMC are world class. They were able to save Brad's life. The rounds, obviously guided by God, moved through his skull and didn't kill him.
I'd been in a coma so long that I really couldn't even sit up. Everything was weak, and I knew I didn't have any hardly feeling in the left side. The rehab doctor came into my room and he asked me what was my plans. you know, for Methodist. And I told him, I said, well, I want to be walking. I said, I got to be home with my babies for Christmas. And he told me, he said, Mr. Sullivan, he said, I hate to tell you, I really don't see that happening. I see you may be able to stand and might be able to walk a little. He said, but I don't see much at all in your future.
He has limited mobility, to say the least. It would be a comparison of something like you or I going to the gym and lifting 200 pounds. For him to stand up out of a chair, or get into a car, or step into a shower. Just to put it bluntly, his mobility is limited.
I'm unable to stand without my braces on my feet. I'm unable to stand up in the shower. I have to sit on a chair to take a shower. I'm unable to get in the bed without my shoes on. And once I get in there and my shoes are off, I'm there until somebody comes back to put them on. That's the hardest adjustment, is getting used to the living situation and having to have help.
Shortly after Brad was home from the hospital, Lieutenant Butler and I had some conversations about what's going to happen down the road for Brad. And we started talking about it more and more and more, that there needed to be something for him to go to, somewhere that he could live and be comfortable to fit his needs.
To have things that you and I take for granted, just being able to have self-care and do for himself and still have pride in himself to be able to cook a meal or provide for his son or move around. If he can have that back, that's monumental.
The project is called A Home for Brad. We are asking for financial and service donations to help build Brad a house.
Brad has a need, and that will not make him whole again, but it's humbling to see, the Lord work and people step up to fill that need.
It's nothing short of a miracle, the amount of support I have witnessed and felt all of these past 3 months to my friends, my family, my law enforcement family, and the community.
People look at this incident and they say, well, there's a police officer that got hurt or injured in the line of duty. I've heard people say, well, he knew the risk. Well, yeah, he did. And people say, well, he was paid to do a job, and he was. The main thing is Brad's not just a police officer. He's a person.
Brad's is a story of hope. You hear about law enforcement being the thin blue line, and a lot of the misconception is that blue line is stone walls and just this impregnable fortress that you can't get past. Well, it's men and women, it's flesh and bone that are holding that line. On September 5th, Brad stepped up on that line, and a lot was taken from Brad that day, and we need to give a lot back to Brad.